Well, it might seem a little strange starting week one of a public speaking class with a dark topic, but it's important that we address primal fear because we've all experienced it, and we've experienced it more than once. Perhaps you felt that dread when you were on a first date, when you were on a job interview, maybe a time when you were leading a meeting at work, or asking your boss for that much coveted raise. Primal fear, we have it a lot in our lives, and we've always speculated, well, where does this stem from? Perhaps most famously, the father of psychoanalysis, Dr. Sigmund Freud, he pinned it back to our birth. He said that we're all born naked and helpless, and we never really forget that. Now, whether that's the end-all be-all answer about our primal fear is up for debate, but what we do know for certain is that our society is obsessed with fear. We talk about it all the time. We have shows that revolve around it. We find it fascinating, so much so that there are multiple organizations that are paid to go figure out what things we fear the most in this country. And then they rank them. You've probably seen these lists. They come out at least once a year. And, you'll have some new things that appear on these lists, and maybe some old things drop off. A lot of common things, spiders, heights, stuff like that. The number one and the number two fears, though, have remained pretty consistent for a long time. And you may be surprised by what came in number one. Not death. You would probably assume that would be the number one fear among most Americans. That actually came in number two. The thing most people are afraid of is public speaking, the activity we are going to be focused on this quarter. So it's a little amusing, it's a little surprising, but it certainly speaks to a commonality that we all face some level of speech anxiety. You're not alone. And I like to address this topic the very first week of public speaking classes so that our fears about this activity, they don't sit there and fester or grow bigger, that we address it, we say, you know what, these things happen, and then we look the other way. We know they're there, but we can focus on the strengths and the factors we can control in a speaking situation. So know that this nervous energy we always get, channeled properly, it will actually boost your speech performance. And we'll talk more about how to do that here in a few minutes. But first I want you to think about some of those odd symptoms that you've had when you've faced nervousness about a speech in the past. Now, normally in a classroom situation, I'd go around and I would ask everyone to name off at least one of those symptoms. We can't do that this time, so I'll just list off a few common ones as you're thinking of some of your own. Of course, shakiness, whether that's in the legs or the hands, the butterflies in the stomach, perhaps even nausea, sweating, your breathing, you maybe tight of breath, or you feel like you're breathing harder, faster, your heart races, stomach doing flip-flops, sometimes maybe your mind just goes blank or you get tongue-tied. Those are all pretty common answers that I get in students from a group probably just like yours. There's one symptom that nobody really ever shares that I always get. I get a lot of those symptoms, but one that I always experience, especially when I was on the speech and debate team, and maybe no one shares it because it might be a little too much self-disclosure the very first week, but I share it anyway. And it's that when I get nervous, my bladder works on overdrive. I could have just peed minutes before a speech starts, but as soon as I walk into the room where the next round is going to happen, I have to go to the bathroom again. It drove my debate partner nuts. He didn't understand it. He had other symptoms of his own. So I'll explain why that happens, why my bladder acts the way it does, and why we get the shakiness and the faint of breath and the heart racing and all of that, because there's a perfectly good biological explanation as to why these things occur. But first off, first sort of take-home lesson for this video is I never want you to apologize for any nervousness that you might be experiencing. Now, your symptoms probably feel a lot worse, this storm going on inside of your head, than what the average person can see. So if you apologize, you may be pointing out something that they were never going to notice to begin with, and in fact may start looking for if you announce it. So that's one reason to avoid apologizing. Another would be you might hit your own confidence and not feel as strong going into that speech. And you may lower the bar of expectations for your audience members. They may be less inclined to listen, thinking that perhaps you didn't prepare accordingly, and apologizing can give that off sometimes. So the audience can't see everything you feel. You'll never want to start off a speech with an apology. So don't worry about that. We know that we get anxious. So why does this happen? And there are a few perfectly good reasons as to why, especially novice speakers. First, as you see there on the slide, it could be a simple lack of experience. Now, normally I ask students how many of them, by show of hands, had a public speaking class, a class just focused on public speaking in middle or high school. I often get no hands, maybe one or two. And if you're one of those folks, you should feel extremely fortunate. It's a skill set that we're just not often taught in our public school system. Sure, you may have gotten to stand up and give a book report in an English class, but that focused on the content of the report. It didn't teach you how to stand up and speak with your own style, focusing on eye contact, gestures, movement, storytelling, vocal variety, all of those things. And that's what this class is here to do. I mean, think about it. If something is new to you, no matter what it is, you're gonna feel more nervous, whether that's the first day on a job or you're traveling to a new place. That tends to be a good type of anxiety, but anxiety nonetheless. So if it's a new experience, yes, you will feel nervous, and that's why you're taking this course, to help give you more experience, which you'll be doing with the recorded speeches over the quarter, as well as some of the activities I have planned for you and your partner to do at home. Another reason why you may feel nervous is because you feel different. Perhaps you think you have this weird symptom that nobody else out there has ever experienced, and that's just not the case. I listed off many symptoms there, and I'm sure you have several of those, as do I. So no, we're all in the same boat. You don't have to worry about feeling different than other people, because we all feel some level of anxiety. And then third, perhaps you have this level of discomfort with being the center of attention. Your personalities differ. Some enjoy this, some don't, and that's okay if you do not. It doesn't matter where you start, you can become a competent public presenter. Now, if you feel like perhaps you have over-the-top speech anxiety, this discomfort with being the center of attention where it's all eyes on you and you're alone with a spotlight with you on stage, start to reconceive of this activity of public speaking. Rather than picturing that scenario, think of it as an extension of an ordinary conversation. Put yourself in that mind frame and go from there. So, we all know then that anxiety impacts us both chemically and physiologically. Certain things happen which ties into the fight or flight phenomenon, which normally I would ask a student here to explain, but I'll go ahead and remind folks what that is since I can't take your questions with a video here. But fight or flight happens when we are presented with some sort of perceived threat, and our mind takes action. It's beautiful, actually. We don't even have to think about it. This happens in a mere split second, and that is to preserve yourself, your health, your safety, and ultimately the survival of our species. So it's a good thing we have fight or flight, and that kicks in. Fight or flight, we see this perceived threat, and then what's listed here on the slide starts to occur. We get this adrenaline pumped into our bloodstream. That is to prepare us for potentially a fight and any injury or pain we might feel, to temporarily block that. Our breathing and our heart rate increase. So it's not just your nerves, it's this fight or flight physiological response. And then oxygen-rich blood is channeled to our largest muscle groups. If it is an interesting study, if we are feeling more fear toward the threat, the blood will tend to go to our lower extremities. That way we can get the heck out of there faster, we can flee. If we're feeling more anger toward the threat, it tends to go to our upper body to fight. So our body is really doing something amazing. It's preparing us to do one task incredibly well in that moment. And that is your body primed for the speech, essentially. But our nervous system is in charge of all of this. Our nervous system, as you can see, is incredibly powerful, but it's also a little dumb. It can't tell the difference between an actual threat. Say you go on a hike, you round a corner, and you run into a bear. Fight or flight should kick in. Hopefully, you get the heck out of there. But again, our nervous system can't tell the difference between that scenario and then you giving a speech in front of 20 or so of your harmless peers. It has the bear reaction. Fight or flight kicks in. So that brings us to my bladder, which I'm sure you all wanted to return to. Why does my bladder kick into overdrive? Well, one of the things that happens with fight or flight is the limbic system overrides your frontal lobe's ability to control your bladder. So it says, I want to evacuate this thing. It's not needed right now for fight or flight. Let's evacuate the bladder. There you go. Another reason why you may get dry mouth, that is linked to the digestive system, deemed to be non-essential to the task as well. So things aren't firing on all cylinders when you are having these feelings. So I want you to not think so much right now of public speaking, but another scenario where fight or flight can kick in. And that would be something like an amusement park ride. If you like those, normally I take a show of hands, most people do. A thriller or a scary movie, a lot of people enjoy that, show of hands. A last question I'll ask, do people enjoy sort of extreme outdoor activities, whether that's whitewater rafting or rock climbing, things like that? I know I love a lot of those. So usually by then, everyone in the class has raised their hand to one of those things. And you get the same reaction, that fight or flight kicking in with those activities that you love, as you do with a speech. So that's sort of your take-home lesson number 2. Embrace the adrenaline rush that comes with public speaking. You'll get through it, and you'll get through it well, just like all of those other activities, and you will feel those endorphins, the feel-good kicks in, and you will want to continue to chase that natural high. That's, I know, why I ended up loving speech and debate so much. So reframe it, anticipate that adrenaline rush, and embrace it. And next, don't eliminate this nervousness, channel it. A lot of times I'll get questions, not even from students, but from my peers and coworkers. They'll say, hey, Andy, you've done public speaking a long time, you enjoy it. How do you get rid of your nervousness? What can I do to do the same? And that's the wrong question. You can't eliminate your nervousness. It's just there naturally ingrained. And if someone tells you they don't get nervous before public speaking, they're either not telling the truth, or worse yet, it means they don't care. The nervousness is a sign that you want to do well, so it's actually a positive thing. So what should you do with this nervous energy? First, reframe it as something to anticipate, and there's a level of excitement around it. Next, use your energy to spice up your delivery. Rather than monotone vocals or flat facial expression, no movement, you want to use those nerves to add inflection to your vocals, to perhaps move around, use the space, use your hands. That'll give your ideas impact and stress. Also, know how you react to this stress. Go ahead, make a list of all of those nervous symptoms that you feel, and then be prepared. These things are just going to happen. That will help you prepare and cope. So now, activity time. Before you watch the next video on confidence building in the week 1 module, pause and write down all of those nervous symptoms you've had in the past. Then come up with some strategies to mitigate or minimize those symptoms, things you can do before and or during the speech. Once you've done that and you've got your own resources, I'll provide more tips in the next video.